You're listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.
This episode,
I'll be liberating a FAB Fact.
We're going out with a bang in the Randomiser.
and MG Harris is back to talk Ghost Mine and White Storm
That's all coming up in pod 110.
of the Gerry Anderson podcast.
Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
It's almost like it happens every week, isn't it?
I think you'll find it is exactly like it happens every week, yes.
Yeah, the Gerry Anderson podcast is back for pod 110.
Gosh, I really feel like we've established ourselves into the century now. 110,
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
that's serious stuff. Anyway,
There's no turning back now.
you are Richard James.
That's true, and you're Jamie Anderson.
Yeah, and we'll also later be joined by Chris Dale.
Yep.
And the three of us together join forces, the powers combine to create the Gerry Anderson podcast.
Yeah, that's right. Once a week, we're here for about an hour and a half or so to entertain you with all things Gerry Anderson. For example, we've got the amazing Chris Dale with his Randomiser a little later on, of course. We've got the second part of Jamie's interview with author MG Harris. We've got FAB Facts coming up very, very shortly, I should imagine.
Oh, yes.
Some news from the Gerry Anderson universe. And of course, we'll be hearing from our Podsterons via email at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk, via Twitter, where they've been hashtagging us Gerry Anderson Podcast, and tagging him, I'm Jamie Anderson, me, Richard N. James, and him over there, Chris Dalek. And also, they've been writing their thoughts and comments on our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Podsterons, and we shall be dropping in on that a little later on. I think I've covered all bases.
I think that may have been your best intro to date.
Ah, thank you, Jamie. I have been practicing. I've done it 109 times before.
109 times to reach perfection. Well, they do say 10,000 hours, don't they? So
Are we close yet, do you think?
I feel like we might be.
Oh, God. Yeah, we could well be. Also, we've got now, Jamie, I don't know if you've received this, but you know how we do like to get audio files from our listeners?
Yes, I believe I have received this.
Yeah, so we've got something a little special coming up a bit later on, so stay tuned for that too.
Yeah, I look forward to hearing the story behind this now I've heard the clip itself.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Most interesting.
Most interesting.
Richard James, I know how much you love a fab fact, so...
Yeah, well, what I like is actually just getting it over and done with, so yeah, come on then.
Okay, let's get it over and done with then. Here we go.
Now, time for this week's Fab Facts.
Yes, it's Fab Facts. I've got a book of Fab Facts. I'm going to flick
Hooray.
through it. Richard will shout stop. No, he won't. He'll shout Fab or
That's
stop.
more like it.
Whatever you like. And I'll just read out a thing. That's it. There you go. Is that any shorter than last time?
That was certainly shorter, but lacked enthusiasm, I think.
It's so difficult to find the right balance with this. It really
isn't it?
is. Anyway,
Yeah.
look, Richard, I've got my book. Are you ready?
I am.
Here we go.
Fab. Hey, what?
Right. Well, MG Harris will appreciate this because if you listened to our interview last week, you will know that she is a huge fan of a certain bit of British cult television.
Oh. Bum ba ba dum bum ba dum bum ba ba dum ba ba dum ba ba dum. Sorry, that's the.
Is that the one?
That's the theme.
Is that
Yeah,
the
I think
theme
so.
of Blake
You're talking
7?
Blake 7, aren't you? Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
What?
Yes. I see. I've seen so little Blake 7. I can't even think what.
You'd love it.
I know.
You
Sorry.
would love it. I've been catching up with it. It's on YouTube. All of it's on YouTube.
Is
so
it?
go and watch it now.
That
it's
sounds
really good, Jay.
very illegal.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it is. I mean, I'm not condoning it. I'm merely pointing out that it's there.
Fair enough. Okay, well, look, this isn't directly about Blake 7, but it sort of is. So, for those that don't know, including me, Blake 7 starred Gareth Thomas, is that right? Well, at least for the
Yes.
first half of the series.
Yeah.
As freedom fighter Rog
Blake.
Yeah, Rog spelt R-O-J.
Yeah, the futuristic spelling of Rog.
Yeah, a future Rog. Excellent. And he leads a group of rebels against the Evil Federation. Is that right?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. it was very popular. It still is, evidently,
Yes.
because it's on YouTube. And that series featured guest appearances from many notable Anderson names, such
I
as
bet.
Cy Grant,
Yeah.
Jeremy Wilkin, and even your good friend, David Quilter.
Yes, I know, and I've been looking out for him. I think I'm up to about episode 7 or 8 of the first series only.
Yeah.
And each time I watch, I make a point of looking out for David, but he hasn't turned up yet, so I'm, looking forward to that.
Okay, well, there you go. But that is not the fab fact.
Oh,
I mean, that was quite fab in itself, but that's
Yeah.
not the fact itself. The fact itself is that in the Gerry Anderson universe, there is actually a character called Blake.
is there?
Yes. That's Agent Blake, as seen in episode 4 of the Secret Service. He's an agent of Bishop. That's the British Intelligence Service Headquarters Operation Priest, as they
Yes.
say. Blake was was the Captain Scarlet puppet, sporting a pair of glasses and new hair.
Hang on. I love the way you said was played by the Captain Scarlet puppet.
Yeah, well, it sounds
like
weird,
the
doesn't
puppet
it?
was a kind of an entity on its own who had a separate career outside of Captain Scarlet.
Yes, they
so I like
they
that.
hired that Captain Scarlet puppet. Anyway,
Yeah.
who knows what the contract said for that
Great.
puppet? But
Yeah.
that character was the Captain Scarlet puppet, but redressed, basically.
Yeah.
But he was never given a first name, not on screen anyway. However, he was given a first name in the script for the episode The Cure. Now,
Oh, yeah.
Richard, bear in mind what we've been talking here.
Yeah.
Nick 7, etc. Any guesses what Blake's first name might have been?
Well, you're not going to tell me it was Rog Blake.
Well, I'm not. It was Roger, though. It was Roger.
Oh, okay, right, yes.
So maybe the friends of this puppet character
Yeah.
might have called him Rog. So
Right.
he was Rog Blake, maybe?
Well.
Yeah, so the line of dialogue that confirmed his name never made it to screen, but we can still perhaps think that inadvertently, obviously, the Century 21 team had planned to give Agent Blake a first name
Yeah.
that would years later be given to a slightly more famous character.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Now, okay, we're kind of, there's a lot of conjecture going on here and clutching at straws and all that sort of stuff. And Roger Blake is not exactly a rare name. In fact, we may even have a
Sure.
listener called Roger Blake.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Or maybe a Jim Kirk?
Oh, do you think there's Jim Kirk listening?
Or
you might be right.
Scott Tracy? Or a John Koenig?
Or a Hubble Orin?
Or a Hubble Orin, absolutely.
I mean,
so this very naturally leads us to ask Podsterons, do you or someone you know have an Anderson name?
Yes.
So, I mean...
Like it.
maybe
there's someone
hang on.
right now.
Let me just take that call very quickly.
Hello? Jeff Tracy here.
Hello, I'm just doing the podcast. Can I call you back?
Oh.
Okay, all right. Speak to you later. Bye-bye. Anyway, so if your
Was
name...
that someone with an Anderson name?
It was indeed, but I can't reveal who. If your name is Jeff Tracy or Eagle
Yeah.
Spaceship or Moonbase Alpha, perhaps, do
Right.
let us know. Podcast at gerryanderson.co.uk and let us know that you are the namesake of, or you know the namesake of, someone or something from the Gerry Anderson universe.
I like it.
So, I look forward to those emails. I'm sure we'll get at least one. And until next time, that brings us to the end of this week's Rog Fact. Oh, that'll do.
Okay.
I went for
all
Rog,
right.
you went for name.
Yeah, okay. Well, but that's very unusual that we go for different ones. I have to say, I think that might be the first time that's ever happened.
It could well be, but let's keep it
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
it shows that even you and I are imperfect, Richard James.
Even you and I. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Well, okay. Now,
Cheers.
look, talking of imperfect, let's head over to our email bag to see what people have been sending us to podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. For example, Steve has got in touch with us to say, "Hi, Podsteron Wranglers. Can you please wish happy birthday to my daughter, who is 20 on the 20th of July, 2020, the same day as the podcast." Now, that's something rather special, isn't it? Now, he says she's called Scarlet for obvious reasons. I just wish,
Nice.
so this rather harks back to the Fab Fact we just had. There,
Yes.
already we have someone named after an Anderson character.
Isn't that strange?
Yeah, I just wish, he says, that she was interested in Gerry Anderson shows, but at least she humours me sometimes. Fair enough.
Aw.
Keep up the good work. as I know it brings thousands weekly pleasure, and that's a fab fact. All the best from Steve. Well, that's nice. Rob Pollard says, hi, Jamie and Richard.
You said, can we wish her a happy birthday? We haven't actually done it.
And I'm rushing on. Sorry.
Happy birthday, Scarlett. Happy 20th birthday. We hope you have a great day.
Yes, happy birthday, Scarlett. Rob Pollard says, hi, Jamie and Richard. On hearing the podcast, one episode sprang to mind. Operation Crash Dive from Thunderbirds, in which Fireflash 3 crashed into the Atlantic with a loss of 600 lives. So this is going back to my question last week about which episode do you think has the highest body count? So this is Operation Crash Dive from Thunderbirds, in which Fireflash 3 crashed it into the Atlantic Ocean with a loss of 600 lives, not seen in the show, when said plane nosedives into the sea. So can you beat that? At the moment, we're up to 600 lives lost. It's rather a grim little competition we've got going here, isn't it? But if you know of any higher body count in a Gerry Anderson episode, let us know.
Yeah, there's no prizes for this, by the way.
No, there isn't. Martin says, Dear Richard and Jamie, I'd be grateful if you could give a shout-out to my fellow Podsterons, Abby Svensson and Willow Landon-Smith, who jointly put out the quiz on Saturday nights. I would like you, through your email section in the podcast, to express my thanks to them, both for the time and effort they spent preparing and hosting a brilliant and very entertaining quiz. I took part for the first time this week and was made very welcome by them and my fellow Quizterons. It was a great way to spend a Saturday evening. It's also very interactive, and the Quizterons not only take part, but are encouraged to submit question rounds of their own, which adds to the fun. So there you go. Thanks again to Abby and Willow. That's from Martin. And I would like to echo that. If you head on over to facebook.com/groups/Podsterons and join our little group there, or ever-expanding group, really, you can see just what hard work Abby and Willow do and join in the quiz on a Saturday night and have fun there.
Yeah, good work, gang. Keep up. Yeah. Keep it up.
Keep it up, exactly. Yeah, more emails later and a few tweets and Facebook messages too.
Oh, well, I'm looking forward to those. Good. Including this voice clip you sent me.
Oh, yes. Look forward to that.
Quite the mystery, that. But while we wait for that, and to pass the time, let's check in and see what's been going on in the world of Gerry Anderson this week in the Gerry Anderson news. Gerry Anderson, what, Richard?
News, Jamie.
It certainly is that.
Yes.
Now, we've been talking about it for some weeks, but the Thunderbirds soundtrack is out now.
Nice. Great.
It is launched. The vinyl has taken off from the swimming pool, and the CDs have popped out from the roundhouse.
Right.
And yes, they're on their way to you, or you should maybe already have it by now. Now, at the time of recording, of the 750 limited edition vinyl copies that were produced for the first run worldwide, there are 141 remaining.
Wow.
That is all, and it's only just been released. So, please go and grab it. I hate when we get emails saying, "Oh, are there any more of this? Because I missed out." Just don't miss out, please. Please
get in there quick. Yeah.
Anyway, mine should be arriving any time today on the day of recording. I've got my turntable out ready to have a play with these sky blue vinyl copies. And who knows what soundtracks might be next? Well, I mean, we actually don't know yet. No, I don't know, but I assume it'll be probably Fireball or Stingray maybe. Certainly Space 1999 at some point.
Great.
I wonder what colour vinyl they'll be on. Anyway, who hopes or dares to dream what colour they might be?
Do you think on the Space 1999 vinyl, you know the label in the middle, the round label, do you think that might detach and sort of be movable so you could, No?
I thought you were going to say the top should be like the plan view of Moonbase Alpha.
Yeah, that would be lovely, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's certainly doable. Anyway.
That's doable, yes.
Yes, let's not get too excited. Yes, I can't. I'm excited. It'd probably be grey, won't it be moon grey, I should think.
Yeah, fair enough.
Anyway, enough of that. On to far more important things. Finally, the winner of the Tracy Island Mate competition will be announced this week.
Oh, yes.
Apologies for the delay. Trying to get everything and everyone together has been tough enough. Anthea Turner, one of our guest judges, has been extremely busy. That's certainly not to blame her. In fact, I'm the one to blame because I took so long to decide on our shortlist because the entries were so fantastic.
Great.
But we're nearly there, and you'll hear an announcement of the winner this week. It'll be announced on the Gerry Anderson website, and you'll also be able to see some of the runners-up and highly commended entries on a post on the Gerry Anderson website, and there were some really creative ones in there.
Lovely.
So thank you to everyone who entered.
I mean, did anyone get really... I mean, I can imagine that the majority of them were sort of made out, cardboard, papier-mâché, and looked as you might expect. But were there any weird and wonderful entries made out of, very strange things?
There was a fabric-only entry, which is made out of cushions and towels and bits of material.
Yeah.
There was a pop-up book entry.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
Which is really lovely, yeah.
Nice.
Most of the others were kind of more of your standard run-of-the-mill common or garden junk entries, as in made from junk.
Yes. Yeah, quite right.
But they're all lovely. So, yes,
good.
Just really nice to see, and really nice to see families doing it together, kids doing it, all ages, genders, real mix of teams, and it was great to see. So, really lovely. Richard, tomorrow... That's the day after release, the 21st of July.
Oh, yeah, I'm out. Yeah, I'm going out.
Yeah. We know you're not going out because you've got something much more exciting to do.
That's true.
Is to watch yourself and talk about yourself.
I enjoy nothing more.
Yes, in Space Precinct 2 Against the Rock, a live watch-along over on the Anderson Insiders Patreon. For lieutenants and special agents. If you pop along there, you can watch us from, what are we doing, 6:30 or 6:45 p.m, I think?
Are we? Fine.
Something like that.
Okay.
Anyway, there'll be an announcement on the Insiders page. If you have not yet joined Insiders, then I would strongly encourage you to do so you can get extra access to stuff that nobody else is seeing. Patreon.com/Anderson Insiders. There, in fact, you can see a preview of the upcoming UFO 50th anniversary poster, which will soon be available to pre-order. It's rather lovely. It's by Eric Chu.
Gosh.
It's really retro 60s view of the 80s in colour and style. It's great fun, and I think it's a limited run of 500 of that. So
lovely.
When that's out, go and grab that. And finally from me, a belated happy birthday to David Graham, the voice of so many of your favourite characters, including Brains and Gordon Tracy and
who's the guy in Thunderbirds that he did? I can't remember.
Tintin.
The chauffeur.
Parker. It was Blooming Parker, as we well know. Anyway, David turned 95 last week.
Hooray!
Still going strong, enjoying himself, and just being the lovely gent he is. So, David, we doubt that you'll hear this, but still, we're sending you a belated happy birthday out into the Gerry Anderson universe.
Yeah, lovely. Happy birthday, David.
Anything from you, Richard, before we round off?
No, I mean, it's very quiet at the moment, isn't it? Certainly for me. I've been sitting by the river and drinking cups of coffee, so there's absolutely no news from me.
Wow. And on that bombshell, that is the end of this week's Gerry Anderson News.
That was the news. Very quiet news. Well, at least from me, anyway. I mean, you've got lots of stuff going on, I know that.
Yes. And I'm keeping you busy, aren't I? You're writing things and you're doing this watch-along, and there's some other things going on, aren't there? So
That's true. I can't complain. That's true. Now, talking of complaining... They're not complaining at all. But I just thought we'd head over to our Facebook group where they've been having lots of fun, certainly not complaining. They've been sharing their artwork, they've been posting anagrams of Anderson series names, and even sharing their Anderson-themed dreams.
Oh.
There has been quite a bit of this on social media recently. People saying that in these strange times, they've been having much more vivid dreams and strange dreams. Yeah. Well, a few people have been having Anderson dreams. So if you have been having dreams of your own where you've found yourself waking up on Moonbase Alpha or walking down a dark alley with Captain Scarlet, do let us know at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. However, Matthew Alderman Harris, not so much a name, more a civic position, wrote this on the Facebook group. I was watching the Captain Scarlet episodes Treble Cross and Expo 2068, and I noticed a couple of things, he says. In this shot, and he posted a picture from Treble Cross, you can see one of Brains and Tintin's caravans from the Thunderbirds episode Desperate Intruder. We like it when that happens. Also, in this shot, he says, posting another picture of the SPV from Expo 2068, the Spectrum logo is reversed. But this is not a flopped shot, as the SPV lettering is the right way round. Isn't that interesting? Well spotted, Matthew. Like all that. Andrew Clements, AC, who we all know and love, says, on re-listening to the pilot episode, something struck me that I'd never noticed before about the TV episode of Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons. Captain Blue is introduced at random. He gets no more setup than the likes of Captain Indigo, as Colonel White orders the nearest SPV to intercept Scarlet and the World President. He doesn't specifically order Captain Blue to do it, and Blue isn't shown on Cloudbase in advance of his appearance and isn't mentioned by name. Therefore, says AC, what if Blue wasn't originally stationed on Cloudbase, but was a ground-based captain in the London vicinity? He got the call to respond and did his heroic actions, saving the president, and which earned him a permanent position on Spectrum's floating HQ after his debrief there at the end of the episode. Any thoughts? To which Robert M. Cassidy commented, I'd like to know how the petrol station operative can tell that Blue has an expert rating on SPVs, given that A, the writing on Blue's ID card is far too tiny for him to read from that distance, and B, that information isn't on the ID card anyway.
Well...
So, there we are. We're really getting into the minutiae of Captain Scarlet there.
Now, but Richard James, we've covered something related to this in a previous Fab Fact. Do you remember?
Go on.
So some time ago, we discovered that in the original promotional material that was put together before the series was made, Captain Scarlet's number 2 was due to be Captain Grey, wasn't he?
Ah, yes.
Or was Captain Grey supposed to be Captain Scarlet? I'm just wondering that the lack of Blue in there basically is most likely because he wasn't in the original sort of the story outline because they were going to go for Captain Grey.
I see. Oh, that's
I think
interesting.
That's right. So then he would have been a kind of an afterthought, hence not having the setup. Maybe. Yeah. Just a thought.
Yeah. Like it. Now, you'll remember how last week, Jamie, I struggled with my Quickfire 5, giving you some Anderson-themed beverages.
Quickfire 1?
Tom Hodden, of course, has come through for us on the Gerry Anderson podcast listeners group, saying, coming soon from the Gerry Anderson Cafe, Captain Scarlate.
Oh, lovely.
Cup of Joe 90.
Less good about that. Yeah.
Space Prosecco.
That's a bit of a reach.
Terraholics.
Ooh.
Yeah. Orin Gina, which of course I quite like.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Yeah, and Cappuccino Blue were some of his ideas there.
Gosh, there you go, Richard. I think, for future Quickfire 5s, there's no point employing you, is there?
No, you're right. I should outsource it. And finally, so let's get to this audio file.
Yes!
Now, as you will know, Jamie, we've recently released Demeter City, the pilot episode, unscreened pilot episode of Space Precinct, in conjunction with Big Finish and Anderson Entertainment, which you can now buy as a download-only audiobook. Well, obviously, as I recorded that, I have to give a little bit of thought to some of the character voices, and you might say do a few impressions of your Captain Podleys and your Slow-Mos and your Brogans and Haldanes, etc. Well, someone's been stealing my thunder.
Really? How dare they?
I know. I've got competition. So we received this from Sebastian Bird.
You know what I've got here? The estimated rebuilding costs of Mona's Galactic Cafe after you two dropped in to dinner.
Oh, come on, Captain. If it weren't for us, half the tenants of Ivory Towers would be pushing up the Luvian daisies.
I couldn't agree with you more, Haldane. Now, down to work. You two remember an interplanetary we got a few months ago from planet Dani about organ leggers working the wharf area? Yeah, didn't a number of very important surgeons get caught with their knives in the cookie jar? Yeah, but the killers got away. Right. But after reading the coroner's report on your space cadet, I'd say they found a new home. From tomorrow I want you two on this full time.
Oh, come on, Captain. We're working 3 homicides now.
I know what your caseload is, Haldane, and it can wait. Unless you prefer to argue the point.
You're the captain, Captain.
Good night, gentlemen. Go home.
There. I mean,
what are you going to do for your new job now, Richard, now that you've lost your voice doing the impressions?
I mean, that's the only thing I had going for me.
Yeah.
It's a difficult time. Theatres are closing. TV and film production has fallen through the floor. I was relying on doing Gerry Anderson voices. But no.
Seb's just taking it from you like that in one fell swoop.
Pulled the rug from under my feet. There we are. So that led me to think, if you reckon that you can give a pretty decent impression of any Gerry Anderson character, why not send us an audio file to podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk and we'll play it out next week. So, you reckon you're a dab hand at Captain Scarlet, or do you think you've got Captain Podley down pat? Let us know.
That would be rather marvellous. I know there's a few good young stars out there from Terrorhawks.
Yeah.
Or perhaps you can't do any Anderson voices, but you can do some other voices from the world of cult TV, and they might like to enact an Anderson scene.
Okay.
It's a bit more meta, but quite fun, right?
Yes. Yeah, sure.
Okay, well, I look forward to those emails arriving in their ones into the podcast at gerryanderson.co.uk address shortly.
Yeah.
Shall we head over to an interviewee, Richard?
Oh, yes, it's part 2 of your interview with MG Harris,
You're
is it not?
quite right. I mean, now you've said that, I don't really need to say anything else, but she's the author of Gemini Force One. She completed Dad's final idea. She wrote 3 books. They're rather marvellous, and she's going to tell us all about them and thoughts about future possibilities, etc. Now, here she is. So then, at some point along the line, we decided to go down the route of Kickstarter to get this kind of funded and get people behind it.
Yeah, Robert went out to publishers with like opening chapters and a pitch, and they couldn't understand. They loved the idea and everything, but they couldn't understand. They were like, "Where's this going to go in a bookshop?" Because you remember the lead character was an adult at this point, and there was a boy in it, there was a teenager in it, but he wasn't quite a Wesley. Although I now like Wesley, Wesley Crusher. I'm now watching Star Trek Next Generation thinking, why was I so mean to Wesley? He's just such a great guy. So we had a teenage boy in it at the time, but he was going to not be like the main character. And then we went to the publishers, and the publishers, their reaction was that they just didn't know where they'd put it, because they said, we have no idea where to put this. So that's when we went to Kickstarter, because who was it? Was it Phil Ford? Someone had talked to you, and I think it was Phil Ford, about crowdfunding. I think I met Phil later. Is he the guy who wrote Captain Scarlet?
Yeah, wrote New Scarlet.
It
may have been Phil. I can't.
Yeah, no. Phil told me this at one of the cons, at one of Andercons, and he said, I'm the one who told Jamie about getting finance from Kickstarter.
There you go. Well, I'd forgotten, so thank you, Phil Ford.
Yeah, so you told Robert, and then we decided to do it as a Kickstarter. But then, of course, when the Kickstarter did so well, then the publishers were interested.
Yes, as is always the way, because they don't want to take a risk.
Exactly. And then the publisher's like, well, let's look at that again. Maybe we're a bit hasty. Let's look at that again. And then they were like, okay, but we want this to be a children's book. So then I had to go back and rewrite it. I'd written about 30,000 words by then, so I had to go back and rewrite it all from Benedict's point of view, which I remember saying, that's going to be hard because he's not actually the guy doing the action. So you're going to
He's not there a lot of the time.
He's not there. He's just maybe watching. And they said, yeah, well, he has to be the viewpoint character. So now you've got the first 3 chapters, which originally were written from the point of view of Addison, who's right in the middle of the action. And now they're written from Benedict's point of view. So he's not in the plane. He's not he's the rescuer now, or one of them. Anyway, I really like writing kids' books, I really
in fact, because when Robert first mentioned you, I read the Joshua Files very quickly. I'm not a big reader. I'm a very slow reader, and I got through that really quickly and really enjoyed it. So it kind of felt like the pace of the style was very fitting for an Anderson story. Yeah. So it was really just a change of a viewpoint, wasn't it? So what, for somebody that is brand new to Gemini Force One, they've never heard of it before, and they just sat there going, what is this thing? Can you summarize the world and the rescue organization in as if they were kind of looking at Thunderbirds template? Make it really easy for an Anderson fan.
Thunderbirds.
Yeah. We're assuming that anybody listening to this podcast knows about Thunderbirds, but they may not know this. So what's Gemini Force One like as an Anderson show? It's
like Thunderbirds, except it's set in the 21st century. So you've got women as well as, and people from different countries. It's not one family, but they interact like a family, and they share a base, and they go out and they do rescues, but with GoPros on. So now, the controllers, the controllers back at base can see the action and can, like military operations now, in the base, you can actually coordinate stuff. They all know Krav Maga. They don't carry weapons, but they do get into danger sometimes because there's a political angle as well to the rescues that, there are some natural disasters, I think, but not so many. Most of the disasters are basically caused by corruption, Yeah. Generally, it's industrial corruption is the enemy, or political corruption.
Yeah.
So all of they are doing other rescues, but the ones that we write about are the ones where there is some human evil agency. Because those were always my favourite. The Hood, the ones that were. Those were my favourite ones. With the Hood is such a great evil guy with his evil lair in a temple.
And we don't have an evil guy from Malaysia in a temple, but we do have a baddie though.
We have a sort of serial baddie, Minos Winter. He's a British mercenary.
Yeah, with a northern accent.
Yeah, with a northern accent. He's from
because in the audiobook,
does he do a Manchester accent then? He's
sort of done his Christopher Eccleston sort of accent there, which it really works. In fact, when I was hearing it, I was like, I can see Chris Eccleston actually playing this character if it was on the screen.
Guy is Minos Winter, but he's ultimately a henchman. He's a highly paid mercenary who's always working. He's a puppet. He's always working for an evil oil. I'm not going to spoil it, but basically he's paid. He's a paid henchman, but there's no kind of evil organization. I'll leave that to Anthony Horowitz,
fair enough.
Evil organizations. There is just henchmen.
Yeah, but you'll have to listen to find out exactly what happens. So we've got Gemini Force One Black Horizon, which is the first book, which is now available as an audio book performed by Jacob Dudman, who many of you will know from Doctor Who stuff and from The Stranger on Netflix and Medici on Netflix and probably other Netflix things to come. And Jake is lovely, and he really enjoyed the read. He's loved being part of the world. So there are two further stories beyond Black Horizon, Ghost Mine and White Storm. Can you just give a little kind of preview hint of those? I should say that all those books are still available in print format from the Gerry Anderson store if you want to get a printed one, if you'd rather read it. Future versions of these other books will be out as audiobooks in, I think, November and the following February, so that there's more to come. But yeah, MG, can you give us a quick kind of intro of what happens across those two without too many giveaways?
So Ghost Mine is set in one of the deepest gold mines, one of the deepest mines in the world. And I got the idea for that after reading or listening to a book called, I can't remember what it's called, but it was read out on the radio, and it was about these very deep gold mines that are they're like 3 Empire States buildings depth down, and you have these and the temperatures there are horrendous because they're constantly having to fight the temperature of it would be 50 degrees or something like that. So they've got all these cooling plants down there to try and keep things down to a temperate under 30 degrees or something like that. I thought, what if something went wrong with the cooling plant? That would be bad.
Nice.
So the ghost miners are these, again, this is a real thing that happens. These are people who live, people who go and they just want to go and scrape ore and keep it, because if you can the dust from those places, if you can collect enough of it, you can get a little bit of gold. And so there are these poor guys who just go and live down there for months at a time, just living in the abandoned shafts and stuff. So I thought that those people would be interesting to bring into it. So again, it's a political, there's an industrial shenanigans going on. And the reason I do that is because then you get an antagonist. So the rescue organization, so Gemini Force, are not just trying to do a rescue, but there's people trying to stop them because either they don't want, the secret to be revealed or because they actually want the people to die for another reason. So you get an antagonist as well. I love to have that because then you can have a bit of fighting, all, Krav Maga.
Yeah.
No guns.
A nice punch up. And I've got a really distinct memory of reading the first draft of Ghost Mine when I was on a flight out to San Diego, I think. And there's a long sequence where Ben is in scuba gear to try and effect a rescue. Yeah. And I read through that chapter and realized that since the beginning of it, I basically held my breath the whole way through. It was really, really effective. And there's a lot of stuff in there, which is, is super atmospheric. So
I really enjoy writing action adventure. It's quite, I don't know, I wouldn't say it's hard, but it's when you're writing action adventure, something that if you were to watch it on TV or if you were to read it, you'll go by in minutes, okay? You'll read 10 pages in minutes and you will, watch 10 pages worth of action in minutes. But it'll take a long time to write 10 pages of action. So while you're writing those 10 pages, mentally you're submerged or you're under this terrible pressure situation and everything. So, you do really feel it. Like, oh my God, we're still short of air. We're still trying to get out. And it goes on for days.
A very different pace of
very different pace
creation. Yeah. And White Storm, third book. What's
so
that
White
one
Storm
there?
starts with almost exactly with the opening that Gerry's alternative opening to the series was. It's on a mountain, and there's one of these trains that goes through a mountain tunnel up high in the Alps, and a plane crashes into the tunnel, and that's a very vivid scene that was in the first 3 chapters and then that was the opening. And I read that and I was thinking, why would a plane crash into a tunnel up in the mountains? I mean, that can't be an accident, that's got to be on purpose. And I thought, okay, so why would someone do that? Why would a plane be? Because, of course, I don't know if he wrote that before or after 9/11.
After, yeah.
Right, so maybe he was thinking, because it's not clear from the 3 chapters that Gerry intended it to be a terrorist incident, but I decided that Gerry probably meant it as a reference to 9/11, as a reference to, a terrorist using a plane as a terrorist instrument. So then I had to think, well, who would do that? Why would they do it? And so it becomes about an organization that are attacking kind of the 1%. Well, actually, the 1% of the 1%.
Yeah, I was going to say the 0.01%.
They're attacking the 0.01%.
Yeah.
Antsy people. And then Gemini Force have to do this rescue. And I remember a friend of mine, when I told her the plot, she said, the problem you're going to have there is too many people are going to be sympathizing with the terrorists. And I think, yes, politically they might sympathize with the terrorists, but I'm going to have the terrorists target Ben, who is a 16-year-old boy. He doesn't deserve to be killed just for this political, message. So Ben becomes the center of it, So it's actually, he has to self-rescue. He has to self-rescue before they can do the other rescue. So it's more about a rescue of Ben, and Ben rescues himself. Well, with help, obviously, with help.
Yeah, but a little bit of an action-adventure rescue coming-of-age thing for him. I mean, because we don't want to spoil what happens in the first book, but he goes through some serious trauma along the way.
Yeah, I always have to put my teenage characters through trauma, I'm afraid. It's kind of the children's adventure books.
We don't want them to appear like spoiled brats. And,
it's not like
Ben is a rich boy.
That's what I'm telling you. It's not like the famous 5 anymore. It's not all lovely picnics and an adventure and home for tea. You have to make these kids suffer.
Yeah. Yeah. No, well, Ben definitely suffered. So we did the 3 books under Orion. Obviously, I guess we were hoping for more books. Did you have any ideas or thoughts for stories beyond our first 3?
The next one I was planning was going to be about a tsunami. And I'd watched, films about tsunamis and I was reading books about tsunamis. Well, I was prepared to, and doing not like fiction books, but books about there's one I was going to read, and I think I've even got it still, which was about someone who was there. Was it the Indonesian tsunami?
Yeah.
So and it was about that and the plot was going to be that there was a sort of child trafficking ring that was running, because I always, I have to cross a natural disaster or some kind of disaster with some kind of nefarious activity, and then Gemini Force are getting involved in kind of solving, both things, because they're not just rescuing, they are kind of on the right side as well.
Yeah.
And so there was going to be some child trafficking ring that was involved as well, because I found, again, I base all of this on news stories that I read and stuff, or for non-fiction. I just prefer that. And I think that your dad did that as well, because I think that your dad's original idea for Thunderbirds, as I remember, came from reading stories about coal mine rescue. And that's the other reason I wanted to do Ghost Mine set in a mine, because I remember really thinking, he's right. There are some horrible things happen in mines. People don't really know until you start reading about it. It's just horrendous, because you've got fire, heat, and being buried alive. It's horrible.
It is. Yeah. Well, so if listeners haven't heard and want to go back and hear about the genesis of Thunderbirds, we've got the BBC News reports from that original mine disaster in Lengen in Germany in 1963, I think, which inspired Thunderbirds there in Pod 100. So yeah, being based on real life was absolutely the way he did it, and that's why when he would always watch kind of Rolling News when Rolling News became a thing to get inspired, and watch the Discovery Channel to look at how we were tackling problems around the world and kind of where technology was headed and all that sort of stuff. It was always rooted in the real. But Gemini Force One kind of lives now, really. It is contemporary, isn't it? Because Thunderbirds, yes, written from a 1965 perspective, but set in the 2060s. Could be 2020, depending on who you ask. But it was set in the future, whereas this is much more contemporary. So do you think that lends it a greater realism?
Yes, but except that if you've forgotten that, okay, so yeah, the technology that renders some of the crafts, one of the crafts is kind of almost invisible, and there's some sort of invisibility there, but I did a lot of research on current sort of invisibility technology, and it's not exactly invisible, but it's like an optical illusion. So you get like LED plaques that project what is outside. So it's sort of like good camouflage, because I did want all the technology to be something that's in development, at least in development now, so that you can say, okay, yeah, this could be happening now, and the political situations, and that we're all kind of contemporary.
Yeah. It's all pretty contemporary still, isn't it? It's not. I mean, the series isn't that old. We're only talking 5 years.
Yeah,
really?
No, we're only talking 5 years, and presumably you could still. Are you going to pitch it to TV stations?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's all part of the mix.
Yeah, I think if we have the book, the audio books, and the audio play, then that'll be something that we can use to help pitch it. All these TV people are going to need content, but everything's backed up for ages now.
Yes, I mean this is part of the reason this has all happened. Really, is because of the lockdown and the crazy situation, and trying to still create content to entertain people through lockdown, and that's what we managed to do. So, thank you to Jake Dudman, who has done a fantastic job on Black Horizon. You can go and grab that now if you like from BigFinish.com or from the Gerry Anderson store. Would you like to tackle any further Gerry Anderson worlds or adventures in the future, MG? Yeah, you could say no.
I think what I liked about this was that there was an idea and there was some guidelines and everything, but I was able to do something sort of, to innovate and stuff. But I think there are some properties that were never developed that much, or that, that to be reimagined, would be a good idea. Yeah.
Okay. So this isn't necessarily the end of the line for the MG Harris Anderson collaboration.
No, I hope not. No, that would be fun, actually. Yeah.
There you go. So maybe stand by for something in the future. If listeners want to find you online, on Twitter, etc., how do they do that? My
Twitter is @realmgharris. I'm there. Yeah.
And a website?
Yeah, I have a website, themgharris.com. That's where my book information is. And then I have a blog, but honestly, I don't really update my blog anymore.
Fair enough. So Twitter's the best place.
I do Twitter. I do Facebook. I add people on Facebook. I do. As long as they have I only add people with mutuals, though. That's the thing, yeah.
Oh, they get. Well, if one of our listeners has a mutual friend and adds you, then they'll be on. Yeah. So expect some incoming friend requests. And
we've got the group, haven't we? We've got the Gemini Force One group on Facebook.
The page, or is there a group as well?
There's a page, yeah. I think there's a page.
Yeah. God, I haven't updated that for ages.
No, but I get notifications from that, so I do. If there are questions there, I would respond.
There you go. Okay. Well, I might go and update that page now.
But I'm really looking forward to hearing all of it. I'd love the excerpts of the Black Horizon reading by Jacob that I've heard. Yeah. I really like. I like his accents. I think he gets Caroline perfectly. I was like, lovely little touch of Austrian accent there, very upper class. And so I really want to listen to all of it now.
He has done a great job. So I'm going to get that to you right now. And I would implore all the listeners to go and give that a go as well. So, MG Harris, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jamie. Lovely to see you and talk to you again.
And
Take care of yourself. Avoid the lurgy. Bye.
Great. Very nice.
Thank you, MG Harris. Please do go and follow her on Twitter, MG Harris. Search for her website, but she's mostly very active on Twitter, and she will happily answer your questions about Gemini Force One and anything else, and definitely about Blake 7. And if you want to pick up the audiobook of Gemini Force One Black Horizon, you can get it from the Gerry Anderson store or from Big Finish.
Yeah.
And if you want paperback copies, then we also have some copies of that at the Gerry Anderson store, shop.gerryanderson.co.uk. And there's a Gemini Force One bundle, actually, where you can get all the books and some badges and some other goodies. So
nice.
Pop along there.
Lovely.
Now, Richard, next week...
Oh, yeah.
I've been joined by a couple of people, actually.
Oh, really? Anyone I know?
Shall we let them introduce themselves?
Oh, okay.
Here they are.
Hello, I'm Brian Cox. And I'm Robin Ince, and this is the Gerry Anderson podcast.
Ah.
You obviously recognise those voices because they actually say their names.
Yeah, very good. Now, I have to say, Brian Cox, that's been a long time coming, hasn't it?
It has been a very long time coming, yes. And
I mean, he's often top of the list of people, when they say people who we ought to interview.
Yes, Professor Brian Cox. And
yeah,
there
right.
he is.
Yes.
So, yes, I dropped Robin Ince a message on Instagram and just said, do you fancy coming on? I don't even know if you like Space 1999. And he said, I do, and I've got an annual right here. and let me ask Brian. I'll get him on as well.
Great.
So I wasn't expecting. I just thought Robin would be great, and Robin is a great podcaster and raconteur. But to get the two of them was brilliant, and we had a lovely chat. They were very short of time. Obviously, the Prof is extremely busy, as is Robin. So trying to pin them down was tough. But we did the recording. They were great. It was great fun. And I got in probably about 3 more questions than I did with Samira Ahmed and Kevin Fong.
Okay, right.
So it's mostly them talking and me occasionally going, but that to look forward to. It'll either be in 2 or 3 parts from pod 111 onwards. But there's some great stuff in there, and very grateful to them for doing it, and to Robin for organising it and getting Brian on board too. How exciting!
Yes. Yeah, well, I look forward to that. Well done, that's great. Now, you're listening to the Gerry Anderson podcast. Don't forget, you can subscribe to us on whichever platform you're listening to us on. Just hit the follow or like or subscribe button on the screen there. You can also leave us a rating, of course. Leave us some kind words so we get a little sense of how we're doing. And don't forget to share us with your friends, of course, so they can get to hear us too, because we love to spread the love. Now, over on Twitter, people have been hashtagging us Gerry Anderson podcast. They've been tagging him, I'm Jamie Anderson, me, Richard N. James, and him over there, Chris Dalek. For example, Luke Durnell says, another excellent podcast, gents. I'm in a Captain Scarlet... I know, how do we do it? I'm in a Captain Scarlet mood, so this pod was just up my alley. Excellent interview with MG Harris. I'm looking forward to part 2. If you love Gerry Anderson shows, you must listen to the Gerry Anderson podcast, SIG. Well, thank you, Luke.
Nice.
Tessa Wyatt says, I've just finished my last night shift of 2. I've been a Podsteron for 4 months now, and the podcast has become a night shift staple, keeping me happy and alert in the small hours. Pods 108, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 109 were my company this time.
Amazing. I'm very glad to be keeping you company on the night shift.
Yeah. Quite an eclectic mix there, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
Now, also, the Gerry Anderson official Twitter profile tweeted way back in Pod 90, we spoke to Dr. David Parker from ESA, the European Space Agency. Listen now via your favourite podcast app, because, of course, there are so many podcasts to listen to now with so many interesting interviewees, and very often the Gerry Anderson official Twitter page likes to tweet out a suggestion for you to go back and listen to. And Phil Joyce responded to that saying, now that's really spooky. I don't know who's doing your analytics, but I'm halfway through this pod as your tweet popped up.
Ooh.
Must say, it's a great listen.
Nice.
Thanks, Phil. Yeah.
Now, Phil, I wish we did have very clever analytics, but can I tell you how those podcasts are picked?
Yeah, go on.
We put the number of the current podcast and the number 1 into a random number selector and press go.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
So that's how it's done. There's nothing editorial or curated about it. It's entirely random.
Well, that's just as well. That's great. So, yes, we do love to see your tweets. Hashtag us Gerry Anderson podcast, and we'll see them, and I shall read them out next time.
Good. I look forward to those things.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that most Podsterons look forward to, and so they like to tell us, is Chris Dale's Randomiser.
It's true.
He comes along every week and randomly pops through various episodes of, all Gerry Anderson series from the last 60 years. And I guess he'll probably be doing that right now, won't he?
Yeah, I should imagine so, yes.
Should we let him do that?
Yeah, I think we should.
Well, okay, well then off you go, Chris.
Well then, yeah.
Gordon, are you okay?
Oh, hello everyone. Sorry, no time for a proper introduction today. We've actually already made the selection for today. It is Space Precinct, but we've just lost contact with Thunderbird 4, so it's all a bit tense here at the moment.
Gordon, Are you okay?
Just about, Virgil.
Oh, whew. Well, that is a relief. Isn't that a relief, Prince Voltan?
Gordon's alive.
He absolutely is. And with that awkward but very necessary transition, here's Flash.
Yes!
So welcome to the earliest Space Precinct episode we have yet covered on the Randomiser, Flash. This was, I believe, the 4th episode made, and for whatever reason, it was very often shown quite near the end of the run, like almost...
Jones?
Almost the last episode before the 2 parters, in fact.
Trit? Ha! All the greats.
I suspect it may have been partly due to perhaps issues with the content of the story. I know...
Brother, we're close.
I suspect that's one of the reasons Illegal was shoved so far back in the BBC run, is because they had to reshoot the replacement scene, where Haldane is ramming the metal coat hanger into the junction box. This one, I think, again, similar sort of thing could have been behind pushing it to the end of the run, but I think the fact that it's just a bit rubbish
sounds really dangerous
is probably at the heart of it. Anyway, we are with this Tarn gentleman who is racing across the streets of Demeter City.
Gee, that'd be swell, Haldane, but cruise...
When I say streets, I of course mean sky. I do know the difference.
Grandpa's disc.
I just don't always remember.
Haldane, we're on duty.
Oh, man, you're doing the paperwork on this one.
Yeah, that's our Tarn friend just cruising by. Haldane has got some country music tapes that have been sent through from Earth. Oh, there's that hover bike. That hover bike model that was in. It was the pizza delivery bike in Double Duty, and then they turned it into a toy. A DCPD toy, but then they had to include the toy in an episode of, I think it's in one scene in Takeover, just to justify the toy's existence. Now, Tarn friend is dosing his wrist up with a little spray from an atomizer there.
And rising.
Rock and roll, blood.
Oh.
Please keep a minimum of 2 hands on the controls at all times.
He seems very hip and cool. Oh! Just punched his fist straight through the dashboard. And again, we have...
Police, reduce your speed.
I really like the model work in this show.
Last warning.
Oh, he's grooving with the country music. Oh, yeah, I really like the model work in this show, but...
What's he up to now?
Any scenes in Demeter City shot in daylight, and I think I've said this before, they just don't work. Yeah, he just turned around and came at them on a collision course.
Oh, man, I'm gonna name my first ulcer after this guy.
Oh, and he's down through a... Oh, electricity pylon. And once the model stops moving, I suspect we'll probably find him on the back lot at Pinewood. Yep, there we go. Oh, chickens. But our Tarn friend seems none the worse for wear.
Good afternoon, officers.
What the hell you think you're doing anyway?
Oh, hey, I want to shoot you.
Yeah, well, I got a better idea. Why don't you try these?
Oh, I like how matter-of-fact he is about it, but...
Good, officer. I'm Marcus Droon. Strongest Tarn in Demeter City. Maybe the strongest Tarn in...
Uh-oh. His head is...
No!
Is pulsating.
Got a bad feeling about this.
And there he was. Gone. And this episode is...
Way to beat a speeding ticket.
Is quite horrific because our little Tarn pal there, Marcus Droon, just spontaneously combusted. And it's a really odd thing with this.
What about our vaporized driver, Jane?
Right. Take a look at the late Marcus Droon's ID. No arrests, no convictions.
Traffic tickets?
Nothing. He was a librarian. Couldn't be cleaner.
Or deader. 1 minute he's on top of the world, the next, poof, hot air.
Well, sounds like too much flash.
Yeah, the build-up to the explosions, it is quite nasty. Even though for most of them we're watching one of the prosthetic heads, inflating and bulging, so it's not quite as disturbing as it is later on with a real life human being. It is still quite effective until the actual moment of the explosion, and then the CGI takes over entirely, and it is just
So shy.
Or they sort of condense, and then they just become these little purple dots that fall on the floor.
In fact.
It's a horrific idea that is executed
Vacation.
as well as it can by the practical effects, and then the CGI just let the whole thing down.
To himself, never caused problems or made any noise.
Anyway, we've gone to see the late Marcus Droon's landlady.
Brogan.
Yeah.
HE11? Does that mean anything to you?
No, not a fan.
Whole stash of vials. HE11?
Peru?
Yep, scrawled on half of a banknote that has the words United Countries of written along the top.
Report. Yeah, we'll be with you in a minute.
Oh, and speaking of practical effects failures, here's Morgo.
I'm sorry. It's just, well, my girlfriend's dealing flash, and I don't know what to do about it.
You can He's just like a giant sentient
Munaki.
Andy?
Oh, I don't know.
That's the problem.
Skin tag, he looks just horrible.
How about a description? I got a picture. Even better. If you see her, maybe you could tell her.
It's Morgo's so-called missing girlfriend. She's standing on the steps outside.
Hey, slow-mo!
A room at Pinewood that I believe was the entrance to the hospital in the UFO episode The Long Sleep. I think that's the exact same door. But oh my goodness, Morgo is a delightful disaster, and I'm sure it's just
Slow-mo, this polar character.
I'm sure that the people who made it
Flophouse and the Wharf
approached this with the same professionalism and skill as they did every other animatronic head they made in Space Precinct, but it's just something about
more than dealing drugs to begin with.
The size of the thing and the fact that there's just too much going on. The head is too bulky, so it needs more animatronics to support it, and you can just you don't often, I think with Space Precinct, you're not very often aware of the fact that you're watching animatronic heads, particularly not with the Creons and Tarns. With Morgo, all you can, you look at him and all you can hear are those gears and motors just working all these various bits, and
police
identification.
The final result just doesn't amount to much. Anyway, Orin and Beazle found Polar Vadmanaki.
Hard to search your premises.
Under suspicion of dealing flash.
Flash?
Don't
Morgo,
your boyfriend told us.
Reported her as a flash dealer.
Friend. What boyfriend?
Oh god, he looks even worse. Anyway, he's taken out Orin and Beazle fairly quickly. I also like how accepting Orin and Beazle are of the fact that a creature as monstrous and horrible as Morgo could easily get a girlfriend. I suppose by Creon standards, Polar is quite cute, but Morgo is she could do much better than Morgo. Anyway, he snatched her, made her run for it.
Man, we walked right into that one. Dumb.
You feel dumb now. Wait till the captain hears our report.
And this is, I think, the first time we've heard from Beazle on the Randomiser. Beazle was the original sidekick of Officer Orin.
The files Brogan and Haldane found.
Who, only appears in the first 4 episodes before actor Tom Watt got bored, a bit annoyed as well that he knew his voice was going to be overdubbed. So with the Creon head, there wasn't going to be much left of his performance, so he decided to leave. I honestly, I think Romek is a much stronger character than Beazle.
Sergeant Prado.
But had Tom Watt not left, I gather Lou Hirsch would have provided the voice for Beazle, in which case
Amelia Cetric.
Maybe Beazle would have been better. As he is, though, he's just kind of a...
She was arrested this morning for...
Kind of a sort of a footnote before we get to Romek. Anyway.
With this.
Ooh, yeah. Fredo and Podley are showing off.
She said something about breaking through the wall.
Another Tarn who's addicted to Flash, a little old lady. Captured on CCTV footage in the cells. Heads pounding, and there she was, turned into CGI.
Hit the streets, people. Dealers, distributors, manufacturers, anybody and everybody involved in the flash trade. I want them closed down and locked up, and I want it done yesterday.
So Brogan and Haldane are off to Interchem to investigate the... Well, there's one of 2 companies that are capable of producing Flash.
HE11, or Flash, as you call it, was developed here at Interchem.
They're meeting with Dr. Henry Jansen, a.k.a. Dr. Smarmy not the villain.
Continue that research as soon as we discover the drug's lethal side effect.
As you can probably hear, he's very...
Credits on that program, and we still haven't recovered.
Very sincere, he couldn't possibly be involved in anything shady.
We were trying to develop an ego enhancer, an artificial confidence booster for the low in self-esteem. Unfortunately, when the concentration of HE11 reaches a certain critical level in the blood, it triggers a chain reaction. And essentially, the blood plasma converts to trioxyglycosone.
Isn't that like Zemtel?
Yes, only less stable. Body heat alone.
And you've got to believe that the person who wrote this, who I can't remember the name off the top of my head, had got to have been thinking...
The problem is when the user...
full-on body horror explosion, chunks of meat and gore flying all over the place, and not this sort of...
The idea how...
This quick CGI fizzle into nothing. It's... Again, I think it's a recurring problem with Space Precinct, and it is quite evident in this episode. It wants to be a really grown-up, gritty adult show, but it's got to keep the kid audience, and you can't go too far in that direction for a child audience. So we get this...
Bad Unaki.
Oh, he's just dropped Polar in it as well. We get this odd...
Wait a second.
Odd conflict between the two.
Oren and Beazle just filed a kidnapping report on her.
Could you upload us that report, Fredo?
SPA.
Thanks.
I hate coincidences.
Yeah, what do we got here? Criminal record? None. Prior drug history? None. Sound like a typical flash dealer to you?
Well, no, but it's the only lead we've got.
Don't forget Peru.
You take Peru, I'm gonna take Pola.
Let me out of here! Somebody! Anybody?
So Pola's been set up in a lab in a warehouse with... oh god, there's Morgo again.
Pola. Isolinium. Completely soundproof.
And another problem with the very early days of Space Precinct. Actually, I think it's a consistent problem right the way through the series.
Money.
A decent actress whose performance has later been dubbed by a completely different performer.
Pola. It takes years to get a license. We simply had to cut some corners.
And kill innocent people?
We were as disappointed with that unfortunate side effect as you.
Yeah, this actress, who, again, I can't remember the name of.
Side effect.
I've seen in other things, and she's usually pretty good. I can't believe she gave a bad enough performance to warrant her voice being replaced like this, but...
I see.
Here we are.
Well...
So we now have Pola, Morgo, and...
Remember everyone who lives there?
This woman whose name I can't remember, either the actress or the character. And it does create a level of unreality where you're just... Everyone you're looking at, you're not hearing their proper voice.
Welcome back, Pola.
I mean, the look of Pola and the voice are kind of nice fits. But... ugh. Anyway, speaking of ugh, it's off to the Brogan household, where... Oh no.
See you later, Prime Ancients.
Shut up.
Have fun.
Take no prisoners, Matt.
Oh. Well, we're getting rid of Matt early on. That's fine. But here comes...
Zil says I really need to talk to you.
the other one.
There's this class project I gotta write. It's called A Parent's Day.
I actually rather like the fact that Liz is constantly...
Policeman you are.
Well, she claims to be translating for Zil, but she just uses
Don't be so pushy.
Zil to get her own way.
Ask me what, honey?
Well, the point of the project is to actually see what goes on in your day.
Because as Zil's an alien, you could almost believe that she is actually sort of sending telepathic messages to Liz or something really, really quite sinister and terrifying. And
I'm sorry.
I'm not a little kid. I'm almost 11.
Yeah, I know, but it's just not a real great idea. I mean, why don't you write about Mom's work?
If I wanted to write about Mom's work, I would have asked her.
Besides, we're at the point in the series at the moment where nobody knows what Mum actually does yet.
I think Zil's got a point.
Oh god, here we go. I haven't missed this. It's been a while since we've been to Space Precinct. I haven't missed this. Poor old Patrick can't do anything right, Brogan.
From Creon chiropodic disorder. Just dial feet.
Watching an advert for Creon chiropodists.
Coming up next, Early Grissom with the Slam Ball highlights of the week and his special guest, the greatest crossover role.
It's never a good sign when your shows...
What's up?
Oh, there we go.
It's a country on Earth.
In this case, it's a dial code.
He saw the dial code on the advert for the chiropodist.
So happens to be the private internal number of our good buddy Dr. Henry Jansen. An intercam?
With the word Peru they found on the half a note. And they traced that back to Dr. Henry Jansen.
Confidence you never had, my dear.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I don't know why Droon would keep the dialing code rather than the number lying around.
I've altered the ratio and
I don't know why he keeps it on half of a banknote.
Bring that lizard.
And also, I don't care. And here's Morgo with a lizard. Everybody loves lizards. They're quite cute. I mean, they're hideous, but they're, as little animatronic things go, they're quite sweet. And we've been spraying this one with flash, so we now presumably have a hyper-confident, oh, I'm very dead, lizard.
Morgo, do you still have that address?
I know I'm close. Give me a few more days, please.
You've got 26 hours. Or rather, your parents do.
And I feel for the actor inside that Morgo costume. I know it wasn't fun for anyone in the full animatronic costumes, but they must have been carrying so much extra weight on top of all the regular animatronics as well.
Polar. Flash don't work on Morgo.
And I think, as I remember it, Morgo is generally...
Stupid Henry.
Generally kind of useless throughout this episode anyway. Aside from kidnapping Polar, he doesn't do much after that.
On to us?
They're asking.
And yet he got his own action figure.
Which means whether Polar's cracked the design flaw or not.
I mean, why does Morgo get an action figure and Armand Loyster doesn't? I want an Armand Loyster action figure.
As soon as she's done, dismantle everything and...
He's way cooler. Anyway.
Make sure we have enough fuel to get to the planet Danny. We'll take the Earth shuttle from there.
Dr. Honest Not the villain.
Boosting.
Turns out to be a villain. He's
and
hanging out at the warehouse.
Give it a Morgo.
He can flap his animatronic lips at her.
Take these to disposal, Tanya, and I want you to wipe the computer files.
Dr. Jansen?
But it's all very, very on the level. I'm not suspicious at all.
Officer Haldane, Brogan, delighted to see you again. How may I help you?
You've got a warrant to search the premises?
We've tested every vat, every flask, every test tube in every lab at Interchem. Nothing.
Oh, and that may have been the first appearance from Dr. Tarn Scientist Bloke, who
No evidence.
handled all the science stuff on the station house before Carson came along, and he's found absolutely nothing.
Captain?
From a raid at Interchem.
They asked us to check out some addresses from Jansen's database. The guy's a real prince.
We thought you might like to see what we found down in Zone 7.
Plus a dealer.
Jane and Took found the flash.
Bit of our success.
Timing.
Captain, Jansen's got a visitor. One Carmel Matthews.
Carmel, I had nowhere else to turn.
This is also alarming. You, of all people, behind bars.
Oh, it's all some kind of horrible mistake. Sweetheart, I want you to know that I'm...
And again, I rather like the performance that this actor playing Dr. Jansen is giving.
I'm in my presence.
Oh.
Hey!
Right, I don't know how that works. She bangs the wire around the...
And to think I actually felt sorry for...
the holding area with the palm of her hand in which she's got a vial of flash to pass to Henry. And yet, I don't know how she managed to get that through the bars without smashing it all over herself. But there we go. I'm not an expert scientist turned drug-pushing person. Henry's making his way down to the cells?
Yes, Officer Haldane. Love is grand.
That's easy for you to say, Lieutenant.
Oh, Space Police.
Dirtbags out there in the street.
Sudden random Space Police clip.
Indemnity City Blues.
Do we have
After these words from our
Indemnity
local
City
sponsor.
No, we don't have to.
Nobody wants to watch Space Police. Well, no, that's not fair.
Something I did?
No. Just something you didn't do.
Ah! Stop it!
Well, you know, Trina's mother is taking her to Moon Station 1 where she works as an astrophysicist. And Ilana's father is taking her to the transit factory where he works.
Yeah.
Astrophysics, transit factory.
You take her to the hospital.
Murderers, criminals, rapists, drug dealers, vicious alien monsters.
88 with a kid on my arm. Podley's going to cut me off.
It's all equal, isn't it? It all balances out.
Patrick Brogan. Your captain is not the issue here, and you know it.
All right, I admit it.
Although I rather like that, thankfully, in this episode, the whole, oh, Brogan, you're awful, Brogan, all that stuff from Sally, thankfully doesn't last very long in this episode.
Your choices, don't you?
Because Liz gets her own way.
I know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The answer's still no.
It is?
I mean it. Absolutely no way.
Mm-hmm.
It won't work.
And I also like the way that Brogan is clearly reluctant to take her to the station, but the conversation with Podley.
I have to tell you, I did the same thing myself. Took my daughter to the station for a few hours, gave her the guided tour, usual stuff. I don't see why you shouldn't do it too. But only for a couple of hours, right?
At most, Captain. By the way, when you did that with your daughter...
It worked out great. She's a detective over on the 38th now.
Of course, the only thing that could possibly go wrong is if I send her on some undercover mission and I think she gets killed, but, well, that's not very likely, is it? She doesn't even work on my station. Here's a nice foreshadowing of a later event. I don't believe for a moment they meant to ever revisit that notion, but it's nice that eventually we did get to meet the daughter of Podley.
They finally found a partner tough enough for you, huh?
Base police officers are chosen for their exceptional sense of humor. Jane, Tookie, say hello to Liz.
Hiya, Liz. So, are you going to be Brogan's new partner?
Officers are also chosen for their originality.
Pretty tough requirements, huh?
It also makes no sense shoving this episode so late in the run, as I mentioned earlier, in the, this is clearly Liz's first meeting with Castle and Took.
Posters. Something wrong, Brogan?
No.
She's also clearly never been to the station house before this point, so it doesn't make sense for it to come after episodes in which she's already been there again.
Well, by the excitement of high-speed chases.
Seek and Destroy, Smelter Skelter.
Sweet.
Yeah, come on, Liz.
Probably another one that I'm forgetting. Anyway, Liz is now being shown around the office at the station house. And Morgo has fallen asleep on the job.
Morgo! I really could use some muscle in here.
I could almost half believe that's the actor falling asleep on the set, because he must have just been losing bucket loads of sweat.
Mommy and Daddy.
Ugh.
What are you doing here? Did Brogan put in for a new partner?
Another thing I really like about Haldane, and I know some people don't like him, is he can just be thrown in with absolutely any other character in this show, and it's instantly a really interesting dynamic. Like with he's introduced to Liz there, and it just worked really well. Speaking of introductions,
What do you want?
and amazing officers of Precinct 88, here's our introduction of unnamed Creon Salgard. Oh, getting a spray of flash in the face. Well, I say unnamed, you can see on his name tag his name is Sasha.
I feel like great.
He's got this sort of buzz cut hairdo.
No way.
But
He completely fails at everything he attempts to do.
who's ever had?
His voice is never consistent from one appearance to the next.
You'd escape.
Right. But
So Henry has given him a spray of flash and is about to throw him in the cells. And I also love that this is a drug designed to boost confidence in people with low self-esteem.
open the door.
And given everything bad that happens to this character through the rest of the series, you could almost believe that he's picked out this poor Sasha guy as a really easy mark. He's talked him into letting him out of the cell. Sasha will go in the cell, waving bye-bye.
Thanks.
What an introduction. And for the rest of the series, this character will just be beaten up, thrown around, tossed all over the place. Yep. One of my faves. He's a real, in the spirit of Captain Magenta, I think. It's
Your face does not match my records. Identify immediately.
Officer Liz Brogan.
Thank you, Officer, Brogan. Report to records of 5 for a voice print and DNA scan. Goodbye.
There you go. So Slow-Mo will just hire any unaccompanied minor who happens to be in the room at the time.
Access denied.
And here comes the absolute worst fight scene in Gerry Anderson history.
Hold it right there.
Here, let me help you.
So this is Henry Jansen trying to get into the docking bay. Can't get through. Beazle suddenly appears. Henry goes to spray him, doesn't have enough flash left. You hear what is clearly not Beazle's voice.
913 to the Bay, officer down, code red.
And then you hear Jansen saying, "Here, let me help you," as if he was recorded like 3 weeks later in a...
Thanks, friend.
Inside a water tank or something. And Beazle makes the wall wobble as he flies back into it. Everything about that scene is just so naff, and yeah, I love it.
Anybody get the number of that truck?
And Beazle died.
No time for chit-chat, darling.
Well, he doesn't appear again after that, so yeah, I just assume he was rushed to intensive care, and he died. Not from injuries sustained in his little fight, just from sheer embarrassment, I would have thought.
Let's blow this popsicle stand.
Oh, and we missed another brilliant bit of ADR there, I think. As Brogan and Haldane were about to take off, Haldane, "Let's blow this popsicle stand." Ugh.
No, but we'll get him when he hits atmosphere.
It's so painful in the early days of the show to watch these characters trying to be cool and failing miserably.
Perhaps Officer Liz Brogan would like some juice? Isn't she with you?
Oh, Fredo, you had one job and you... Well, to be fair, I can understand you not wanting to do it. But,
We got him.
So Liz is AWOL somewhere.
Mark 7.
Yeah, go get him, Daddy.
Oh, there she is.
Watch out, Dad!
Brogan and Haldane are on the trail of Dr. Jansen, who has made off with Beazle's cruiser.
Give it up, Jansen. There's no escape.
And here, see, this stuff works so much better. We have a proper nighttime chase, and it's, for the most part, it looks pretty impressive, because with the light turned down low, everything looks so much murkier and more mysterious, and
He's taking us over the magnetite refinery.
Terrific.
And parts of this sequence look
Massive music.
look almost feature film, others not so much. Just a little reminder there as well that we have the country tapes in the cruiser with us as well. The running subplot of country music, always a good sign for a good episode.
Whoa.
I do like this as well, this piece of incidental music of this chase scene, which appeared again in multiple other episodes. I'm not sure if it was composed for this scene or not. I should know, because I wrote the liner notes for the Space Precinct soundtrack CD. I can't remember at this point in time. Anyway, another Lizarat is getting a dose of flash. Hasn't yet exploded. Has now exploded.
We lost him. Better notify immigration, make sure he doesn't jump the planet. Right. And we're taking you home, young lady.
Oh, Morgo looks like he's trying to swallow his own face now.
I'll bring the transit to the side entrance. Henry will be arriving at any minute. She's all yours.
That's it. Morgo's been given free rein to do whatever he likes to Polar, who has just handed him a bomb and ignited it. Oh dear. I think that's the end of Morgo. R.I.P. Morgo as well. You will not be missed. Oh. It's such a fun way as well to get rid of the character. Just ask him to hold a bomb. It's almost Looney Tunes style in his...
Just about to load up.
His sort of slapstick demise. But Morgo's dead. Probably.
Precinct 88.
You've got to help me. I'm being held prisoner. 423 West 53rd. Come quickly.
We copy, Fredo. 423 West 53rd.
Now Jane and Tug have arrived at the warehouse.
This is where we bid adieu, Pola.
But...
Oh, don't worry, I'm not going to kill you. I'm just going to leave you. Someone will find you, someday.
Another loose end for my amazing plan, full of loose ends that have done nothing but get me in trouble throughout this entire episode. I'm brilliant. Zapola's just been left behind, but Jane and Tug are in
I love chasing around Demeter after Crank calls.
Jansen's office. Oh.
Jansen!
Oh, and he just grabbed Carmel or whatever her name is, used her as a human shield. Oh! And then grabbed the biggest gun he could find, which jams after one shot.
All units, code 3. Officers need assistance. We've got Jansen pinned down at 423 West 53rd.
We're on our way, Jane. Brogan, we're the only available cruiser.
Gotta go.
Oh, again? Again, oh dear. Sci-fi trope central this week. I do like this as well, this model shot flying over, live action shot of two guys getting mugged, and the presence of the cruiser causes the mugger to run off. It's a nice little touch that you don't immediately notice on first viewing. Anyway, Brogan and Haldane are going in as backup, leaving Liz strict instructions to stay in the cruiser no matter what. I'm sure she'll do that. I'm sure she'll do as she's told.
I can wait to...
Oh, especially if she's got some nice country music to listen to.
Dr. Jansen, we need to talk.
And we're coming up on one of the nastiest deaths in the whole of the Gerry Anderson canon. One of the nastiest in this show as well. Jansen is holed up in the lab with Polar, using her as a hostage.
You'll lay down your weapons?
Standing right next to a tank of Flash. Polar's running. Oh! And Haldane's hit the can of Flash.
Jansen, move clear!
Jansen's getting a face full. Oh dear.
This is so bad.
And I would love to know how this...
It's wonderful.
This sequence of Jansen, for lack of a better word, inflating, was achieved. Oh, it looks so painful as well. I don't... It's the shot of the head swelling up. I don't believe it's CGI. I can't see how it's a practical effect. It looks so gruesome. And then, of course, we get that fizzle into the CGI, and that's the end of that. And, of course, there was even more footage shot for this scene that was even more graphic, which you see in Two Against the Rock. You see a shot of him. His forehead has grown like a bubble, and his lip is split and oozing this black slime. It looks so nasty. And I would love to know how that effect was achieved. Mr. Richard James, if you are listening to this, any insight onto how Jansen's death was achieved? Because I can't see it as prosthetics. I can't see it as CGI. It looks so convincing and horrible. Anyway, stunned lady has got a gun. Fired at the cruiser. With Liz inside.
Liz!
Oh. How will the show survive without Liz?
Daddy!
Oh.
Daddy?
She wandered off.
Daddy, I went looking for you.
Oh, and another awful bit of dubbing as Brogan and Liz hug in slow motion. And again, I think that moment is the absolute instant where you see...
No! What?
As I mentioned earlier, the sort of schizophrenic nature of the show, wanting to be really adult and dark and gritty and horrible, and also having to appeal to kids, where it's absolutely defined in Jansen's horrible death being so closely followed by, oh, Daddy, slow motion hug, oh, everything's wonderful.
Did I ever tell you what I used to do when I was a kid?
No? What?
Well, after I'd add the chocolate syrup, and I'd take a spoon, and I'd mix the whole thing up into the chocolate malt.
Right.
Voila!
So,
Brogan swirl.
Vanilla ice cream and chocolate sauce. Which is actually very, very nice, but it's nothing fancy.
Rather, everything.
About what?
Everything's fine. Liz is safely home.
Why not?
And the only thing lost was poor old Haldane's country tapes.
The Brogan swirl. You know, your dad always used to make that for me when he wanted something.
What, seriously? This has a name and a history? It is just vanilla ice cream and chocolate sauce.
Honey, I can explain.
Is this really the way to a woman's heart? I've been doing it wrong all these years.
Well, it was her adventure.
Go ahead, sweetie. Well, I learned something really important today. Cupwork's boring. I want to be a country and western singer.
You do? Great. That's great.
Wait a minute. Cop work is boring?
And with that very, very weak note to go out on, that was Flash. And oh dear. Well, I certainly think that all the elements are in place for potentially a good story. I just don't believe that this is a family show, ostensibly. That limits how far a story like this can go. And a story like this can't really be confined within that format. So it's really a very good example of the show's ambition being thwarted by its own nature. Some good guest performances in Dr. Jansen and anyway, not one of my favourite episodes of Space Precinct by a long way. I can certainly see why this isn't a favourite of many people. And Morgo, oh my goodness, just a complete and utter disaster from start to finish, really. Glad we got this one out of the way.
Flash! Flash! News about Flash! Flash is here in the giant-sized pack. Big, giant-sized pack. In the shops now and it's 4pence off. Buy giant-sized Flash while it's 4pence off.
It's happened again.
Da 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 da.
It's happened again. We had Sid Bird's amazing scene from the episode Deadline earlier from Space Precinct, and now we have a randomiser. From Space Precinct.
Do you know what I've realised?
Yeah.
It's that because this is the Gerry Anderson podcast, we talk about all manner of Gerry Anderson shows. So by the time we get to the randomiser, we've probably mentioned 4 or 5 or 6. And so, we're looking...
It's confirmation bias, isn't it? That's
humans are silly. They're always looking for patterns that aren't there, whatever the line is.
Fair enough.
So, but Flash, now...
Yeah.
Flash is a really interesting one because there's all sorts of stuff wrong with it, I think, or little failings. And Chris mentions a couple of those. How successful the model work generally was, but when you had model work in the daytime, that it always looked a bit meh.
Fair enough, yes.
Yeah, that was one thing.
Yeah.
Morgo.
Yeah, shame. That's a very rare misfire from Neil Gorton there.
Yeah, that was a really, no offence, Neil, but a really rubbish animatronic. And it wobbled all over the place. It kind of, the latex neck sort of flapped.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
It just wasn't convincing. And that's the thing. It kind of breaks your suspension of disbelief,
exactly,
isn't it? As soon as you see it,
Chris said, all the other prosthetics normally, because they're so solid and they're attached to the actor's face and the mouths and stuff were so nicely done. And it felt, like a real creature as much as it could. But Morgo, goodness me. Also brings up questions for me about interspecies relationships on Altor.
Right.
As what's his girlfriend's name? Polar Vad Monarchy or something.
Yes, Monarchy. Yes, that's right.
I mean, what happens there? I mean, I don't want to delve too far, but
there is an infamous line in a later episode. I think, "Divided we stand." I'm not even sure I should mention it because it's beyond the pale. If it's beyond the pale for this podcast, surely it's beyond the pale for a so-called family-friendly sci-fi series.
Yeah.
But there is a mention of interspecies activity, should we say?
Is there? I've forgotten that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, let's leave that for another day. Perhaps there's a story to be told about that, Richard. Just saying.
Perhaps there is.
Also, this weird thing that I remember so vividly, and even as a kid, when I saw the first cut of this episode, I said to Dad at the time, why have they done this? And it's the bit up front where you get to the chase, where they're chasing after the Tarn, the drugged up Tarn.
Yeah.
And as he crashes... because he's all jolly and on this drug Flash, he goes, hey! And then they cut to another shot, and then they cut back, and they have the exact same shot, the exact same dialogue, hey!
Right.
And I heard it when Chris was doing the randomiser, and it's so weird that nobody went, hang on, we've used that exact bit already.
That's right.
They must have had some more, or got him to overdub it, or whatever.
Yes.
And that just it made it feel cheap, as well as, the fact they crash on the back lot of Pinewood and go, well, we need to make it look a bit more alive. Let's get some chickens, that'll do. Some bizarre choices.
Yeah, very, very odd. I mean, it was still early days in the series' defence. I think episode 4, it was one of Alan Birkinshaw's, I think, his first one, possibly. So perhaps I could have asked him when I spoke to him last year. Also, I think this is the episode where Orange suddenly sprouts hair for no apparent reason. Actually, the reason was because he looked so similar to Beazle, who then left anyway. Because I think this was this was Tom Watt's last episode. So, I mean, there's another story, isn't there, Jamie? What happened to Beazle? If only there was some way of filling that gap.
Oh, I see. In the story terms, not in terms of Tom Watt got pissed off and left.
That's right. Yeah, which is essentially what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we're, episode 4, we're looking at a series with a few problems yet to be ironed out. However, the very next episode is the snake, I think.
Yes, which was a good one. And in fact, again, as a kid, I remember because the episode would tend to come back to Dad in 2s or 3s. So
Right.
I have a feeling I watched Flash and the Snake, back to back when they first
they're
came
chalk
back.
and cheese, aren't they, really?
Yeah, they really are. But yeah, no, I mean that's great prosthetics and great fun. And the funny bit where the not the prosthetics, the miniature snake gets blasted out into space.
That's right. Lovely.
That's a fun one. Oh, I kind of want to watch Snake now.
Oh, well, you can't. We're going to watch Two Against the Rock, aren't we, tomorrow?
Well, I like
maybe
Two
we'll
Against
do
the Rock.
Snake another day.
I feel like I'm being a bit down on Space Precinct. I love Space Precinct, as you well know.
Oh, yeah.
But Flash is definitely one of the weaker ones. And as Chris said, even stuff like the CGI of the characters vaporizing was, oh dear.
Mm-hmm. It's a very difficult story to love. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But thanks, Chris.
Yes, thanks. Let's hope for a better one next time on Chris Dale's Marvellous Randomiser.
Hooray!
Oh, right. Well, I feel we're rapidly approaching the end of podcast 110.
Well, I think you might be right. I just have one last email because this
Ooh.
one has come all the way from Finland.
Oh, it better be a good one then.
Well, I thought I'd better read it out. As a big film and TV score fan, I was so glad that you talked about the passing of Ennio Morricone in Pod 109. Even if his association with the Gerry Anderson universe could be considered minor, he had such an impact on the film music industry in general. While he's never been one of my personal favourite composers, I can only appreciate the work he's done. I was fortunate enough to see him live in concert when he came to Helsinki during his tour in 2016. It was an honour to see him leading the orchestra. Also, Richard, funny that you mentioned The Untouchables. I actually watched it for the first time on Netflix on the day Morricone died. First of all, the film itself was great. Second, I was surprised how excellent the score was. Right from the opening titles, I knew I was in for something special. There were so many fantastic musical moments, but The Untouchables is probably now my favourite Morricone score out of the ones I've heard. Rest in peace and grazie for everything, maestro. And thank you, Jamie, Richard and Chris, and all the people behind the scenes for your hard work on the podcast and the Gerry Anderson store, etc. FAB from Helsinki, Finland. And this is from Matti Keskivari, who then says, P.S. I'll forgive you if you butcher my name. I'm quite used to it.
I think you need to butcher it further. Can you have another attempt, please?
All right, I'll take a run up at this time. Matti Keskivari.
That sounds totally convincing to me.
Keskivari?
Well...
Keskivari? I mean, sorry, Matty, but thank you for getting in touch.
Matai Keskivari. Yeah. Great. Thank you very much for emailing, and sorry for butchering your name, but thank you for giving us permission to do so.
Yes, and we do love to hear from you, so send in your emails and audio comments and, of course, your impressions for next week to podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk.
Brilliant. And please also do ensure that if you know or are a Gerry Anderson namesake, send in that information. No proof required, you don't need birth certificates or anything. So if you reply and say, yeah, my name's Gordon Tracy, we'll believe you. So just send it in, podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. We might read it out next week.
Yeah, great.
Right, I think we should probably go. Leave these poor people alone. They've got better things to do than listen to us.
Yeah, that's true.
And,
obviously.
I mean, we've got better things to do than listen to us, haven't we? Maybe not.
Okay.
Fair enough. Right, anyway, let's go. See you next week. Bye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
So now we've said we're doing something different and better. What are you doing for the rest of the day?
You see, that's the thing. I have nothing planned.
Make it up. Make something cool
well,
up.
Actually, I do have something planned. In about half an hour, I'm going to be picked up by a car.
Yes.
And I'm going to be whisked to the set of the latest Mission Impossible movie.
Oh, was that 7 or 8?
Where I think it's 8. Yeah, that's right. Shooting at Leavesden at the moment. So Tom Cruise, that is, has specifically asked for me, not as an actor, I'm doing the catering.
You're an excellent biscuit waiter.
Yeah, so I better get the margarine out and start spreading those sandwiches.
Margarine? Goodness
yes,
me.
that's all I can afford on that budget. All the money goes on screen, you see.
Yeah, you're right. It really does. Yeah. Well, okay.
So that's my day.
Have a fantastic day. I'm not doing anything like that. No, but I have got a box of prototype new goodies that have arrived.
Oh, yes.
Including a large wall-mounted timepiece that you might see on Cloudbase.
Really?
I'm not seeing any more than that, though.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, I'll send you a pic. It's very cool. It's great fun.
Oh, good.
Right. Should we go?
I think I prefer your day to mine, to be honest.
Oh, fair enough. Well, I mean, who wants to make Tom Cruise sandwiches?
Yeah.
Nobody. Well, good luck anyway.
Thanks. I'll send him your love.
Thanks. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.
You have been listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Wasn't it fun?
You have been listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.